take 6 points of damage. You take 3 points of damage. We've heard that a bunch if you've played role-playing games. You know, take 13 points of damage. Take 26 points of damage. You take 3 wounds. What is that? What does that mean, you know? And what I'd like to show you in this video is if you're a new game master, or maybe you've been playing for a while, maybe a little tip to help you in your games. And first off, I want to say that even if you're a player, this video could have some stuff that you might be able to use. Maybe down the road you'll become a game master, dungeon master down the road, and maybe this will help you describe some combat a little bit better. I have a couple of rules that I try to abide by when I role play and run a game. Now, not all the time do I live by my own rules, and many things will complicate things. Time, location of play, the people that are around me, if there's been a bunch of bad dice rolls that night. So there's a lot of things that could go into this to alter how I describe combat. And I'm not going to sit here and say that this is the best way and you should do it like this, because it's not. It's not the best way. The best way is going to be the best way that you do it with your group, with the circumstances that you have around you. Now, what I want to at least stress is things, kind of do's and don'ts that I do, okay? I never sit there and say, you take 6 points of damage. You take 3 points of damage. There's nothing wrong with that, and there are times I can understand where that would be usable with a lot of combat, a lot of hits, whatever. But when I try to run something, when I try to describe something, it's very easy to either have a very minimal amount of description or a very maximum type of description, okay? Now, I understand that a lot of people are going to sit here and say, oh, you know, I can't describe that long. You know, it's going to take all night to play the game. People are going to get bored, okay? You don't have to give a long description. It's all about, you know, how precise and how quickly and how descriptively you can, you know, put into your player's head what your, you know, the visceralness, the grittiness, the viciousness. You know, there's so many adjectives to use of how combat can be in your role-playing game. And I feel that if I just sit there and say, take 6 points of damage, I'm not doing my job in putting what's in my head in the player's head. So, let me tell you a couple tricks that I use for players and game masters alike, from kind of the small end all the way up to the big description stuff. For the very beginning is just to simply do this. Let's say you're new to role-playing games. Let's say you're playing Dungeons & Dragons, or you're playing any other fantasy game. You've got guys with swords, bows, arrows, they're fighting monsters, orcs, goblins, whatever it may be. When you let's say you've got initiative, okay? You've got, you know, players have rolled initiative, and you've got a player where he's playing a human fighter, and you tell him, his name's Dracos. Dracos, it's your turn. And that player, he looks down, he grabs up some dice, and you see him roll. Try, if you can, if you're new to role-playing, whenever you're running it, instead of saying, it's your turn, say, what do you do? What are you going to attack? What weapon do you attack with? Interact with the player. Make the player tell you simply just what weapon they're going to use. So many people start just want to throw dice that you kind of lose sense of what exactly is happening. And it's very easy, especially at conventions. I made sure that I do this. When it's their turn to go, I say, just tell me what weapon you're using when you're attacking. Okay, I'm going to attack with my longsword. Right there, you've already done a very minimal amount of description. The player has actually done it for you. And then you can reciprocate that with a minimal amount of description as well. And you can say, okay, you hit him. He rolls good. He rolls damage. He rolls okay on damage. Nothing great. And you could easily just say, your slice cuts into his flesh for 7 points of damage. That works. That's fine. And he's been descriptive. The players know that he's used a longsword, and you've described that, you know, his cutting sword, you know, just sliced right through some meat and of the monster, and there's a small description. Now, what I think you should do, and what I try to do is, matters how big the group is, obviously, but I try to give each person their kind of moment, if they're going to do damage to a creature or villain or something, really give them that spotlight to do something very visceral. And if I'm going to take it to a more of a medium stance, I said the players are just going to say what they want. And if you want the player to describe what they're doing, some GMs do that. Tell me how your attack is. And I would tell you to do that every once in a while. If you've got a player who's about to hack off the head of some creature, let him discuss and just, describe what happens. You don't always have to take the reins for yourself to describe every little thing. If he's got a good description, or she, let them run with it. Let them go and take the spotlight a little bit. It takes a little bit of effort off of you, a little bit of the workload off of you. But if we're going to go up a little bit more medium, try to, really get into a real physical sense with your players in your descriptions. What I try to do is, if, let's say, they swing a club and they hit this orc across the face, across the head, I will tell them, and I try to show, and I'm very animated at times with my descriptions, and I can get really into a place where, I have no problem really acting out what's happening. And that's going to come with experience or time or just insanity, really. But let's say, the player's, he's rolled his dice, and he says he's gotten 6 points of damage. This, describe it, put your body into it. Describe it with some physicality to it. Say that you rear back, your teeth, you grit your teeth, you come in, you swing hard, and you can just feel the contact with the top of this orc's head. And instantly, you can feel and hear the crunch of bone as that mace just shatters his skull. That's a middle of the way description, in my opinion. But you've shown them with your visuals, because most of us are all visual people. You've shown them this kind of baseball type swing, kind of the determination, grit in your face. You're gritting your teeth. Do that, and do that. You try to do that for every single attack if you can. And like I said, I understand that some people are going to tell me, it's not feasible. But it is if you start to get your mind into that. And you'll start repeating yourself. Swords will start doing the same stuff. Guns will start doing the same type of gunshots. Axes cleave all the same. But try to use some descriptive stuff. And try to really, again, like my other videos have pointed out, really hit on the senses. Here's a good example of it. If I was going to ramp it up even more, okay? Let's say that I've got a huge berserker. He's got a huge double axe in his hands, okay, a big great axe. And he comes in and he just splits and cleaves the skull off of an orc. And this orc is surrounded by the other adventurers. Make sure, you could do something where you involve the other players, the other characters that are around this now dead orc. Say, okay, Draco's, you take your axe and you cleave his skull. You can just see his head split apart. And all you other characters around there, you all of a sudden get sprayed with this blood as his head just kind of opens up like a melon. Use a lot of things that the players can kind of understand and know, what that's like. Lots of times heads are melons, and, that's just par for the course. But tell them that they've got gore dripping off of them if a creature explodes in front of them, or sprays blood if they've gotten their head chopped off. It sprays, hey you're not, it's not his turn to fight. It's not his turn to, he didn't the one that did the damage. But let this other guy get sprayed with blood from what Draco's did, and it kind of gets them into this mode of where they can feel it. Let blood splash into their mouth, and they can, or let's say they get punched in the gut, they get punched in the stomach real hard, they get hit in the stomach. Have their character spit up blood. Tell them, you taste this coppery, warm liquid in your mouth, and they'll be like, oh, okay, I get it, it's blood. Yeah, you're spitting out blood, If you bash something in the head, let them see, the blood in the teeth, his teeth are all bloody. One thing good to do, too, especially for major body damage, if you take a big maul and cleave somebody's shoulder, okay, and really bash somebody's shoulder, what's going to happen is the body tends to draw blood away. That's when people turn white. That blood is, your body's having a major shock happen to it. That blood is going to go to major organs in the body to help protect it, to help those organs that it needs to keep functioning. So that's why you get this loss of blood, and you get this pale look on items. I've seen people get hit in the face, and their face goes white all around the wound, and that's from that shock. It's such a nasty hit that the blood goes to the brain, the organs, whatever it may be. So just describe that. Describe when someone gets hit and you cleave off an arm. Really, you know, the shock, the horror and the shock of them holding on to a bloody stump. You know, I go crazy. I go when I'm running something. I have, you know, I may go overboard at times, but I really like to do faces, to do descriptions, to have, you know, have characters coming in with weapons, and I show the players. I use my body, you know, bashing in shields, and you can feel as your sword hits the shield, you can feel kind of the vibration go up through your arm and kind of stunned and numbness of your arm from hitting this hard metal shield that this, you know, this barbarian has. So, you know, every single thing I try to do, I try to hit one of the senses: touch, taste, sight. Obviously, sight a bunch, and definitely, you know, hit taste a lot, hit smell a lot. You know, if you cut open a creature's gut, tell them all of a sudden you see, there's just a disgusting odor. This stench just pours out of their gut as you split it open. You know, have entrails unravel. Now this is definitely something you have to govern with how much violence and graphic depiction of combat you want in your game. I am one that wants it almost, I want it realistic, and I want it a little bit more. I want to really know whenever I cut something in half or I cut an arm off, I want that player to know that it's out of commission, it's laid all over the place, it's bleeding out. You know, you can see blood pumping out from the leftover, the last bits of heart, you know, and the lungs, you know. I want the players at the end of their combat session to know that their characters are drenched in sweat and blood, they're heaving, their breath. You know, if you describe a character getting cut on the arm, it's real easy to tell that character. You instantly feel the warm sensation of a thick liquid running down your forearm into your hand, and it's hard to hold on to the pommel of your sword. And that's their blood going down there. You know, let blood flow on the characters. Let them get sprayed and shocked by a sudden, you know, destroyed head that sprays brain matter in their face. You know, let them kind of get stuck, have hair and bits of chunks of stuff get, you know, smashed into their helmet and their chainmail. You know, let them, and this is, like, again, I want to stress this is for more visceral, nasty, descriptive combat. You may be playing a more friendly, family-friendly game, and of course, you know, that you're going to have to judge that accordingly. But you can start with those small things, so you don't just make it take 3 points of damage, take 5 points of damage. Make it like, you know, the bullet tears through your side, and you can feel all of a sudden this hot burning agony as this bullet enters your body. And that's easy. You know, I feel at the end of the day, like I said, I feel like I've let my players down if I don't give them a little bit of description of something. And then sometimes I really have fun with it. You know, I cut bodies in half. I, you know, describe stuff. I use a hot dog a lot. Hot dog in the microwave. Throw a hot dog in the microwave and see what happens to it. And put it in there for a couple minutes and see what happens. It's going to splay all open. And use that, you know, just like a hot dog in the microwave. Just use those type of terminology that your players probably know, and it helps them. Use movie references as much as you can. They'll, you know, again, that's something very visceral. You want to use, you know, Murphy's hand, his arm in the original RoboCop when he gets blown off. It's a very visual scene. You know, use that, you know, just the extreme horror, and use your face, use your expressions, you know, really convey to your players, if you can, you know, the dismay and the horror and the eyes rolling in the back of the head as the character falls over backwards. Their lifeless corpse falls down a pit, how it might hit the side of the pit, and it, you know, it kind of crumples and you know, it falls in a sickly fashion and kind of gross, like a dummy falling off the side of a building. You know, use that terminology as much as you can. You'll get used to using it. Your players will enjoy it. And you know, you'll see on certain players, you know who those guys are, girls, that really like that visceral combat. So don't, if you can, don't try to just say numbers. You can say numbers, okay, you know, describe it, and then at the end say, and that was 13 points of damage, or that was 2 points of damage. You know, if they miss and they hit armor, you know, describe the, you know, if you take a sword and hit it across a shield, it's going to make this clanging, screeching noise. You know, use fingers on a chalkboard. If a dagger or a sword or an axe comes across leather armor, you know, you can say that, you know, you can the character can feel it kind of digging in and kind of ripping past the armor. You know, just that. It's easy enough to describe, but it lets them know armor is, you know, metal armor is going to be different than leather, the feel, the texture of it, the description of it. You know, let them feel as much as you can what you see in your head, in your brain, what you're trying to describe. That's pretty much the best thing I can try to, you know, if you're new out there, I hope this has been able to help you. But if you've got any other tips, you know, let me know. But or if you've got any suggestions about describing combat, you know, put them down below and describe away, guys. Have fun with it. And one last thing, if they don't like it, you'll see it on their faces, and you can dial it down. Go ahead and ramp it up. Have fun. Be descriptive. You know, have creatures coming at them, and let those players be the heroes that they are, and really just hack and maim and cut and dismember and crush and bash and poke and, you know, just slaughter these creatures. And describe it to them as much as you can, as good as you can. If you feel like you're going overboard, you'll notice it. Heads on the table, people looking around, not paying attention. Well, here he goes with one of his long, overdrawn, overboard descriptions again. So cut it back a little bit, okay? You slice him across the gut. He holds his stomach, and you can see blood pumping through his fingers as he tries to hold that wound together. Now, that's all. Boom. That wasn't too long. So, hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you get some good descriptive killings out there. Thanks.